So I think we've had Soumya leave us with this urge, I mean, this necessity to downscale. And then between Mr. Raja and Leo, we've talked about how centralization and growth have been institutionalized, and how, and in that process, I guess, lack of accountability as well, right? So I just want to take a couple of minutes more of your time, to talk about a experiment that has been tried in a different part of the world to decentralize energy utilities, to imagine energy utilities anew, right? And it's called the Sustainable Energy Utility. This is a slightly dated presentation from the state of Delaware in the US. Essentially, this is an imagination of an energy utility that is not about producing and supplying energy, but rather producing and supplying savings, or renewable energy or savings of energy, right? So I just want to throw this into all the other conversations that have happened here, and perhaps it might trigger some thoughts, and obviously this will have to be reinterpreted for the Indian context, and it's a decade old, so that also needs to be updated. But I'll just throw that in specifically because Chelarajan made reference to this as well yesterday in his comments, so I just thought I'll pitch that in, and then we'll open it up for questions, okay? So like I said, it's called Sustainable Energy Utility. It's from the state of Delaware in the US. And the basic idea is recognizing the fact that renewables are fundamentally decentralized, right? They're democratic. And so we don't really need to be tied into this centralized coal, centralized hydro, centralized nuclear paradigm. And this is an acknowledgement of that difference. And it's saying, okay, if renewables fundamentally allow you to do this, all of us can be producers of energy as well as consumers of energy. We can be prosumers of energy. So really what is standing in the way here is the fact that we lack investment in the capital, right? How do we invest in renewables? How do we invest in energy efficiency? And as individuals, as small businesses, as residences, as maybe schools, commercial enterprises, etc., that initial investment is always a problem. So the SEU essentially tries to is an experiment that tries to offer an approach where that initial investment cost is taken care of, right? So I'll just go through some of these ideas, and then we'll open up for questions. So obviously this is written in a very different context. It's a slide that was prepared by the University of Delaware Center for Energy and Environmental Policy. Basically it has a different, it's kind of talking about the old energy model that is in silos, and thinking of a new energy model, what's called the SEU, that kind of incorporates a whole host of things. Distributed renewables, affordable energy, lowering electricity consumption, transportation, a variety of different, the entire energy domain, okay? And the important thing to note here is that through a process of collaboration between the academic world and the political world in that state, they were able to actually pass legislation that legislated the SEU into existence. And this happened in 2007. And a couple of interesting things that they wrote in there was to promote, provide, and invest in energy efficiency services. And the legislated target was 30% reduction in energy use by 2020. So it'd be worth seeing what the SEU has accomplished. I haven't looked at it since, but it may be worth looking at how it's doing. And also the SEU is voluntary. So you can choose, if you're a house owner, if you're a business, if you're a commercial enterprise, you can choose to be part of the SEU. Okay, it's not a mandatory thing for all the entities in the state. The other part that the SEU does is has a target for renewables, distributed renewables, DRE, right? And that's very critical. It's really a very conscious effort to move away from centralized utility-based energy production and supply, okay? And it exists as a public-private partnership. And let's go to the next slide, which talks about the structure, how it's imagined. You have the management functions, and you have the operational aspects, right? So here you have there's an oversight board. This is the SERC in India, the Energy Office. And then you have a fiscal agent that kind of oversees the bonds and how they are sold. And the SEU comes in as a non-profit entity, and again it contracts out the implementation through a bidding process. And there are a variety of markets that it tries to speak to: electricity end use, natural gas end use, clean vehicles, green buildings, affordable energy services. And it draws on a bunch of different partners. So energy service companies, the ESCO business model is central to this, local government, community service organizations, and utilities. So, and it uses something called a shared savings model. So what does shared savings mean? Essentially, if you use less energy or less electricity, you are saving money, right? And can you use that money creatively to pay back your initial borrowing, right? Pay back to finance the bond that you took to invest. Okay, so that's the idea. But the point is to get together, to have this approach legislated in a state, to get all these partners on board, and to run with this. That was the whole idea. So, and I think reference was made yesterday to experiments in Vermont, etc., in 2 or 3 different jurisdictions in the US. And this is a chart that compares what these different experiments have tried. Efficiency Vermont was one of the earliest efforts to use negawatts as a way to address the energy, sustainability and energy questions. Then you had something in Cambridge, there's something in Michigan, and then the SCU is here. So as you can see, the organization type varies. SCU is organized as a non-profit, so it's a tax-exempt organization. The funding strategy that they use is not grants, etc. It's the shared savings model, right? So like I said, the shared savings is basically the savings is a revenue stream, right? And that's a very creative way of going about this. The funding sources, you use municipal bonds, you use renewable energy certificates, you use shared savings, and you use the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is a cap and trade initiative in the northeast of the US. So you can monetize some of those carbon credits as well, right? And these are the various participants: industrial, commercial, residential. Program targets are efficiency, renewables, transport, etc., etc. And they had an initial bond offering of $100 million. Okay, so I'm just throwing this out there as one approach to decentralizing, DRE. We talked a lot about DRE, as one approach to kind of attempt to do it, okay? So with that, I'll stop. Obviously, just one more caveat. This is from a very different context, a very different time. So we have to go back and look at it and see how it's doing, okay? But that's all I have to say, yeah?